Welcome to Sports Saved My Life. My name is Clayton Freck, and I'm the CEO and founder of Angel City Sports. We know the power of sport to change and, in some cases, save lives. We hear these compelling stories every day, and we created this show to share them with the world. Enjoy the show, and remember to like, follow, share, and comment. All right. Well, today it's my honor to interview Courtney Ryan for the show. We've known each other for a while, I think since 2015
The start of Angel City, yeah.
ish, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Um, she grew up in San Diego, was an elite soccer player, at one point named most valuable player and on the all city section team or something like that. You know, she was in the middle of her college soccer career when she was injured. We're going to hear a lot more about that. And her journey is really cool because pretty quickly she finds sport and wheelchair basketball. And barely a couple years after the injury, you're on a scholarship at University of Arizona playing wheelchair basketball. And then 2 years after that, you're on the national team. So I think we can all learn a lot from that amazing trajectory. You've played professional ball overseas in Australia. And in 2020, I think 2020, maybe fall in 2029, you made the women's team again. And we're ready to go to Tokyo, obviously, now that we're postponed. She's the co-founder of the Shield Maidens. I think the only women's wheelchair basketball team in the state of California, which is sort of sad, but a great accomplishment. But more than all these accolades and achievements, Courtney's really a part of the Angel City family and really the legacy. She, I think, has played in all or nearly all of our celebrity wheelchair basketball games, which, for those of you that have been out to the Angel City games presented by the Hartford, it's sort of like the big event of the weekend. And it's a weekend full of big events, but sort of the biggest event. So she's played alongside, Adam Sandler and Kim Raver and Gabriel Luna and Rob Schneider and all these celebs over the years. So Courtney, a true pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Appreciate it and love Angel City family. Been around since, like you said, since the start of it. So happy to be here and tell my
Yes.
story.
So to get started, we named the show Sports Save My Life just to hit it right down the middle. What does that mean to you?
It means everything. It's helped me cope with my disability. It's helped me get integrated into the disabled community. Without sport, I think I would be a very lost soul. And I am so thankful and have so much gratitude for adaptive athletics as a whole, because like I mentioned, without it, I would have been lost. I
Yeah.
identified as an athlete beforehand. So to be able to keep that in my trajectory, as you mentioned, was a huge part of accepting my disability.
Right.
Mhm.
And, I love just even trying to think, who would you be without sport? Like, where would you be in life?
I don't even know how to answer that question, to be honest. I don't know where I would be. And that's, again, so much gratitude for the opportunities that I've had and the places I've gotten to travel because of wheelchair basketball.
Right. Right. All right. Describe yourself in one sentence. Who's Courtney
Mhm.
Ryan?
Courtney Ryan is a advocate for adaptive athletics and a hardcore woman.
I love that. You are. I mean, everybody, I'm just remembering all the celebrity wheelchair basketball games, and you're often playing alongside fellow pros like Matt Scott, right?
Right.
And Trooper, who's a legend. And and man, you hold your own against the guys, against, and then but you look so small and sweet and sort of right, but you are like so badass out there. I love it. It's just like this. I don't know. It's like a contradiction. That's just so beautiful about you. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
cool. So this is just a sneaky little question. What do I not know about you?
I was actually very much into theater and musical theater throughout my high school career. And even before then, I participated in the San Diego Old Globe Theater. So a lot of people don't know that little chapter of my life.
Oh, I
Very
love that.
theatrical. Hence,
I
I think
love
that
that.
kind of goes hand in hand with how I play, right? I'm pretty theatrical when I play.
You're so right about that. All right, we'll have to keep you in mind when we get all these casting calls for different things.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did not know that. I love that. All right, so let's just start at the beginning. Talk to me about your childhood and maybe all the way up through kind of college, and then we'll sort of dig into the injury and kind of the disability journey. But like, what was life like for you? Were you always in San Diego? Like, what was childhood like for you? What kind of kid were you?
I grew up in San Diego, California, and I think my siblings and parents would agree with me with this statement, but I was quite the wild child. I had a lot of fun. I was always active. I took my first steps and my last steps on a soccer field. So growing up, I got to
Like
watch,
literally, you learned to walk on a soccer field.
literally learned how to walk on a soccer
By the way,
field.
I learned to walk on a beach, if that tells you anything about
Hey,
my
that,
first
that
steps on the sand.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. So I grew up watching my older brother and sister play soccer. And at the age of 4, I started competing at a YMCA. By the time I was 7 years old, I was recruited to play on a club team called the San Diego Surf, which was out of Del Mar, California. And they're a very big club, very well known within the soccer community, especially in Southern California. So I was 7 playing with 9-year-olds, and throughout my career, I was in love with the sport and had dreams and aspirations to play collegiately and then eventually go professionally.
What position were you like growing up, and did that change over the years?
I was always into defense, so I was a left-footed player, which is a unique position to be in. A lot of people are it's a pretty right-footed dominant sport. So I was a left fullback throughout my entire career. That's all I ever really knew.
Hmm.
So I played when I got into college or high school. I was at Coronado High School. Did really well my junior, senior year. My senior year, we ended up winning the CIF championships, and I was named MVP for that year as well. So going into college, I got recruited to play at Metro State University of Denver, which is obviously in Denver, Colorado. And it was an incredibly tough transition going from playing club and from high school to club going into the collegiate program. But I did well. I started all games my
Hold
freshman
on. What
year.
what like why does the San Diego girl, right? Like go halfway across the country to the mountains, essentially, to play soccer? Like how did that even like happen? Because that's
Um,
unusual.
yeah, no, there was a tournament in Texas when I was playing for the club team, Nomads, La Jolla Nomads, and it was a huge collegiate showcase. So a lot of different collegiate coaches would come to this tournament and watch all these teams compete. And usually the teams that were competing were like usually the top 5, top 10 teams within their state. So we had a really great program, great team, great coach. And at the time that I was playing, one of the coaches came up to me. Her name was Adrienne Perez, and she was the head coach for the Metro State University of Denver and invited me to come take an official visit. At
Mm.
that time, I had other options. I could have gone to Humboldt State University. I could have gone to UCSD and followed my sister's footsteps, but I
Oh
kind of
wow.
wanted to make a name for myself. And I remember going to Denver, Colorado, and this was like during the spring. So the weather was perfect. It was beautiful. I loved like the campus was right in the downtown area of Denver. So I just really fell in love with the coaching staff there and really respected them and just loved the city itself. So
Because
I
that's a really right. So if you grew up in North County, right?
SoCal, no, actually Chula Vista, which
Oh,
is
Chula
like,
Vista. Okay,
yeah.
got so, but still very suburban
Mhm,
life, right? I mean,
mhm.
even downtown San Diego is not like the metropolis. I mean, it's getting bigger, but like still not like right when you were growing up, not like this big city thing. It's like just a bunch of suburbs basically smushed together. So that's a huge decision, right? Very interesting to uh, fall in love with that city vibe.
Yeah, it
right?
wasn't just like the city vibe though. You can like go, drive 20 minutes out and then you're in the beautiful, beautiful mountains. And I was such an outdoorsy person and I loved hiking. So that was another kind of sell for me was, oh, well, off season, I can continue to keep my strength and conditioning by going on hikes and 14ers. So I really just loved that aspect of Colorado as well as
Yeah,
a whole.
yeah. Okay, that's cool. I mean,
Mhm,
it also like I love what you said about just charting your own path, right? So it doesn't mean it was the easy path, right? It
mhm.
actually might have made it harder.
No, it was tough. It was a tough transition going from living at home, for 18 years and then all of a sudden packing up and moving to a completely different state. That
Did
wasn't
you know how
just
to
like
cook? Did you know
a
how to like, do
30-minute drive.
basic? Did you know how to like cook and do basic things?
Oh, I knew how to make that easy mac and the ramen, the staples for a freshman.
There you go.
Yeah.
I got you. So before we dig into college, because I really want to hear more about that. Like you said, you were kind of maybe a wild kid. Like, what kind of little kid were you growing up? Like, were you? Did you get into trouble? Do you need to tell us some stories about getting into trouble? Like, what's going on there?
I was just very energetic and very adventurous child. The only story that really sticks out for me is I was once with my friends, a group of friends, and we were hanging out at the elementary school. And we decided to get up on the roof of the elementary school. And we were just kind of hanging out, running around, doing all sorts of crazy things. And then I remember my parents walking by at that same time, walking our dogs. And all of a sudden, I hear my dad yell, Courtney and Ryan. And when they drop the middle name, it's not good. So I remember like running, and then I jumped off the roof and landed into these ice plants on the hill.
Yeah.
So I was just like very adventurous, and I was in the circus as well. So
What?
yeah, I was a ball walker, unicyclist, and juggler. So that kind of
O-
helps my hand-eye coordination these
Okay.
days.
Next time someone asks you what I don't know about you, like theater is great, but like, yeah, I was in the circus when I was a kid. Like, what is
Oh,
that?
open with that. Got it. Got it. No. Yeah, yeah. I was really into theater, and the elementary school I went to was a huge theater and art school.
Right.
And I was again known as kind of the wild child, will do anything, the stunt devil. So I was always doing the stunts for the programs and shows that we put together. And one year they were like, Courtney, can you learn how to walk on a big circus ball for our show and then maybe learn to juggle as well? And I was like, sure, let's do it. And they were able to invite somebody who was part of the Fern Street Circus and come and teach me how to do it. And then I was recruited to go with them as well. So
So did you like what is life like being part of a circus? Like do you have to like hit the road a lot to like go to different cities and stuff or what?
no, ours was all local. So we
Mm.
were all local from San Diego, and we just put on different shows there.
Oh my gosh. That is the best. I'm like so happy that we got that nugget out of you. Um but it what it speaks to, right? There's like this I can connect the dots of like you always been an athlete,
Yeah, yeah.
and just a highly coordinated human being physically.
Yeah, I've always been involved in some sort of athletics.
And that it's so cool because your personality still comes through in sport, right? Which is super cool.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
okay, so now we're in college. You know how to microwave mac and cheese. You're adjusting to the big city. You're playing at another level, right? Like what's going on as a freshman, like those early, those early years in college. I mean,
hmm
it's gotta be fun. It
Oh, yeah. I
it's
mean,
so
I met some incredible people my freshman year. As I mentioned, I was able to start every single game, which was like a huge accomplishment as a freshman coming in. So started playing left fullback, and we ended up my freshman year making it to the Final Four NCAA. Ended up losing though to Seattle Pacific University, or what I like to call SPU University, and still a little heartache on that one. But yeah, and it really motivated a lot of us that's coming into my sophomore year to do better and train that much harder so we don't have to feel that heartache again, losing at such a Final Four that is so close to getting to the national title championship there. So we came in my sophomore year. We didn't do as well. I think we made it to the Elite Eight my sophomore year, but I was able to be named first team All-American my sophomore year. So I was really excited about my personal accomplishments, but still wanted to do better coming into my junior year. And
And at that point, after your sophomore year, you've had a couple really good productive years, right, in college. Are you like, what are you thinking about your future? Are you thinking you want to try to play, professionally? Like, what does that look like, right, for women's soccer? At least back when you were, when you were coming up. Like, what were your sort of dreams, if they were sport related back then?
yeah, I grew up watching the 99 USA women's national team, soccer team. So of course I had aspirations and like just really wanted to be a part of that program.
Hmm.
And,
So
like,
your dream was to be on the national team and play World Cups and all
oh, yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was hoping to be at that point, and I was doing really well in college, and I just felt like I was so close, I could grab that. I was so close to reaching that point and being able to develop myself to get a spot on the national team.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's
But
so
things
cool.
shifted a little bit, right?
Well, the national team still becomes part of your journey, though.
It does, and full circle. It all came to fruition.
All right.
But yeah,
So here you are. I mean, you're not maybe peaking, but you're really like, right, playing at an elite level, being recognized for it. The team's doing really well. Like it feels like things are really kind of right, kind of falling into place for you, career wise. Are you?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
doing really well, like you mentioned. I was training hard coming into my junior year. I went back home to San Diego to do so and was talking to some of the Olympic development program coaches that had seen some of my games and had been kind of keeping an eye on me and potentially was going to get recruited for those opportunities. So again, really excited. I felt like I was getting really close to my peak, but still could improve as a player. So junior year came around, and that's when things kind of took a turn for me.
Right.
I woke up one morning and we had just finished two-a-days, which is, very exhausting time, training first thing in the morning, doing lots of sprint work, a lot of sprint work, and coming back in the afternoon when it's fairly hot, and doing more training. So we had just done a week full of that, and I was pretty exhausted. And woke up one morning, my legs were numb and tingly, and I just figured, oh, it's fatigue from playing wheelchair basketball, or sorry, from playing soccer and doing those two-a-days. But it didn't go away, and we ended up having to travel that night to a game out in Durango, Colorado.
Mm.
And legs had felt numb, tingly still, and I ended up still playing in that game. But 20 minutes into it, I was running for the ball. I got slide tackled from behind, which kind of took my feet out from underneath me and landed on my back. And when I landed on my back, I already had a blood clot get into my spinal cord. And when I landed and that pressure, it ended up bursting the blood clot, which caused me to become a paraplegic at the level of TAT9. So again, going back to it, I took my first steps, like I mentioned, on the soccer field at a very young age, watching my older sister and brother play, and then ended up taking my last steps onto the soccer field.
It's I mean, listen, you and I hear these stories, all kinds of stories. This one, your story seems so random and sudden. If I
Hmm.
have to just put a couple words around it, um, a lot of these stories seem kind of random, right? Too, like people getting injured surfing, and just like kind of wild, wild things. But all right. So, what do you remember? You remember the feeling of kind of the tingliness, right? So something was not right. You didn't know what it was at the time, right? There
Correct.
wasn't a diagnosis of the tingliness, right before you fell on your back, and um,
No, I was
like
just kind of keeping it to myself as a true athlete would, so to speak, because I wanted to compete and I wanted to play.
you wanted to play. Yeah. What a cautionary tale, right? for anybody playing with any kind of weird physical, right, sensation or ailment or anything, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, what do you remember from the moment, the day, the tackle, the aftermath? Like, do you have good memories from that moment, or?
Honestly, it was a very painful moment and painful experience, both physically and emotionally. I think, you get into the hospital and you have expectations of like, oh, maybe I just have like some sort of pinched sciatic nerve. Like it's probably not that big of a deal. I'll get back to it. I'm an athlete. I will recover. And then I remember getting into the hospital and them telling me after I got the MRI that you are considered a complete paraplegic. You have severed nerves in your spinal cord in the level of T8, T9. And I just remember like my heart dropping to my stomach and thinking like, oh my God, what about my soccer career? What about my collegiate career? What's going to happen? Because I had so much, I identified as an athlete. There was a lot of not really anything else that I could say that I identified as. And it was such an important aspect of my life. So for that just to be taken away or think to be taken away in such a quick moment was really hard to swallow. And it followed with a lot of depression.
So walk us through that. Like, I mean, my story. Like the suddenness of disability appearing in your life is tough.
Mhm.
And I think we all take a take a dip, right? We struggle on an emotional level, right? Of what is this life, right? That now has been handed to us. Um,
Yeah.
so what was that like, and how did you get out of it? Like, what was you know, we all go like this, but we don't all come out of it, right?
Right. No.
um, we need to learn from those of you that get out of it and get out of it relatively quickly, even though it probably felt like an eternity. But like, um, how long were you in the hospital? Like, did you stay in Denver? Like, where were you? What happened there?
So yeah, I stayed in Denver and I was very fortunate enough to go to Craig Hospital Rehabilitation Center, which focuses on spinal cord injury, traumatic brain
And
injury.
it's like got to be one of the top places in the country, right? To have access to, right?
Absolutely. That's why I say very fortunate
Yep.
to be able to take those services and get those services for myself. So I was there for probably about 2 months, and it wasn't just
At
the
Craig
emotion
for 2 months.
at Craig Hub. Yeah. I was
Wow.
at different hospitals before I transferred to Craig. So I was at Porter Hospital, which was also in Denver, for probably about 2 weeks until I was able to transfer to Craig Hospital.
And what was the support like for you? Did your parents, did your family, did your sibling, anybody come out to be with you for those 2 months? Like, what was who was with you?
So it wasn't just a hard experience and time for me. It was also a very hard time for both my mom and father. My mom would come fly out to Denver during the weekdays and stay at the hospital with me.
Mm,
And then my dad, she would fly back home on Fridays and to San Diego. And my dad basically would switch and he would be out in Denver during the weekends.
wow.
So for those 2 months, they didn't get to see each other a lot, or they got to see each other passing by at the airport. And obviously, a very emotional time for them. And the fact that they weren't able to kind of be together at that time was
Mm.
very tough for them. But at the same time, they just wanted what was best for me, and they wanted to be there for their daughter. So I had a lot of support there. I had my sister and brothers flying out visiting me. I had uncles and aunts visiting me. So I was very, very fortunate to have that support. Was I willing to take that support at the time? Not so much, because I was so, just blinded by my depression.
So what were the primary emotions going through you in those early days? Were you angry? Were you sad? Were you like hopeless? Like what was your context?
Honestly, probably all the above, but I definitely was very angry at the
Mhm.
current situation that I was in. And I unfortunately took it out on the people that were, there to help.
Right.
But again, I'm very fortunate that they were patient with me and understood that this was just a moment and that I would be able to be strong enough to get through it. because sometimes you need those people in your life to be able to tell you that, or just to be able to hope for that, because there was a time where I just didn't feel like I was going to be okay ever.
Right.
Hmm.
And I think this is a really important part of our collective journey, right? To educate the broader community about disability and about adaptive sports and about what is possible, which to me is sort of anything is possible, right? With a
Right.
disability.
Hmm.
Uh, so, what did you know about living with a spinal cord injury at that point? Did you know, like, was this like even on your radar? Do you have any clue what you had in store for you?
No, I was a completely different lifestyle and a completely different community that, at that point in life, I just didn't want to admit that I was part of that community until adaptive athletics came into my life.
So and it sounds like it extends past the 2 months in the hospital, but there's a period of denial.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, I was an athlete, and it was one of those things where I was like, oh, rehab, recover, I'll be walking and playing again in no time. Not a big deal. It doesn't matter what they say. They don't know who I am. It was that type of attitude. And as time went on and I still wasn't regaining that function in my legs, that's when it started hitting more and more, and the
But
denial came in.
this is a really tricky part of, I think, some of these more traumatic injuries, whether it's spinal cord injury or stroke or traumatic brain injury, right? Which is you have to do all this rehab. You have to, right?
Mhm.
And but you don't really know if it's going to work, right?
Mhm.
Like it's going to help you no matter what, but like you don't know if you're going to regain functionality and ability, right? And
Right.
you have to sort of, it's a little bit like investing in the unknown, right? Again, it's good for you, mental health and emotional health and all this stuff. So it's always good to be rehabbing and being active.
Mhm.
But like, like where you were thinking there would be a recovery, even though like, what were people telling you about the potential for a recovery of any type?
See, they didn't really say like there would be a potential of recovery, or that there would be one day where I would miraculously just be getting out of my chair and standing up. A lot of it was just trying to relearn and adjust to this new lifestyle of, getting around and living in a wheelchair. So a lot of that I was a little confused as to, like, okay, why do I have to relearn to get dressed? Why do I have to relearn how to transfer into a bed? Why do I have to learn how to make a bed? There was so many, little things that I think took advantage of when I was able-bodied, that I didn't realize how simple it was until I
So,
obtained my
so
disability.
you're sort of, your brain hasn't fully accepted that this is your new life, so you're not understanding that you actually need to learn how to do all this because you thought it was more temporary
Yeah,
at some
exactly.
level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it took time.
So you stay in did you stay in Denver after the hospital then, or did you come back home? What was the
I stayed in Denver for a little bit, and I tried to kind of navigate life on my own for probably 4 months or so.
So you're
And
going to school and trying to like get your life back to normal as you could.
yeah, I was going to school. I was still helping out with the collegiate soccer program, which again was incredibly emotional just for me to be around that environment. So I just realized, you know what? I need to go home. I need to focus on my emotional stability because I'm not going to find it here.
Oh, that's interesting. So you leave Denver after another 4 or 5 months, and but that's a really, it's an impressive level of self-awareness,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know? So did
Yeah.
you feel like, did you feel like you were kind of heading down a bad path emotionally, or you just sort of knew you needed something, a different, like a change of environment?
I just knew I needed a change in environment. And, my mom and dad and brother were kept trying to, like, not so much force me to come back home for them to help, but they were trying to encourage me and telling me, you know what, we have a lot of connections here in San Diego where we can start getting you involved in, adaptive sports. There's a wheelchair basketball program down here in San Diego. You can start getting involved in that. And at the time when I heard that, I was like, Wheelchair basketball? I don't know, like, I don't wanna play in a chair, like, that just seems lame, like, I was that type of person because I had never seen the sport before.
So you didn't get exposed to adaptive sports at Craig, sounds like.
We did a little bit. They did have a great recreational therapy program, but again, it was more so me just not really wanting to accept that,
I got it.
knowledge.
So your brother and maybe your parents are starting to plant some seeds. So had they done some research and figured out that there were options for you? Is that sort of what happened with that, or did they already know it? You just didn't know that beforehand.
No, they had been doing research, and my brother actually has a family friend, Travis Ricks, who works for Challenged Athletes Foundation. So he was able to get me integrated into the San Diego Hammers program, and then
Mm,
also find a mentor named Erica Davis, who was able to introduce me to a lot of different adaptive athletic sports. I was doing hand cycling, track and field, um, wheelchair soccer at one point, wheelchair basketball. And I just remember the first time getting into Balboa Park down in San Diego where they used to practice. And I was with my sister at the time and I was still hesitant. I just didn't know what to expect. And I was like, I don't know, Caitlin, I don't know if I'm going to be into this. Like, you know how much love I have for soccer. And I feel like nothing is ever going to surpass that love I had. And then I remember getting into the gym and like people just slam in their chairs, fall into the floor, and just seeing the aggressive nature of the sport. And
yeah.
instantly I was, yes, sign me up, please. I need this in my life. I need it.
Like on the spot.
Yep. So on the spot, they got me a sports chair. I remember getting into the layup lines, airballing it a couple of times, and realizing, like, oh, wow, this is actually a lot harder than I anticipated. But, I had a lot of support through my sister actually rebounding, and she was researching different YouTube drills for wheelchair basketball athletes. So, like, I had a lot of support and help.
Let's take a quick break to learn more about the Equipment Loaner Program at Angel City Sports.
Part of our mission at Angel City Sports is to eliminate all barriers to participation in adaptive sports. Providing free adaptive sports equipment is a major component to this objective. Each individual piece of equipment can cost more than $3,000. Can you imagine if running shoes cost that much? So we're building an inventory of adaptive sports equipment to support our clinics, competitions, partner programs, and to loan out to emerging local athletes. Currently, we have racing wheelchairs, throwing chairs, and sport wheelchairs perfect for tennis and basketball. If you or an athlete you know need a piece of adaptive sports equipment, visit the Equipment Opportunities page at angelcitysports.org. If you are interested in donating equipment or supporting the Equipment Loaner Program, email us at info@angelcitysports.org.
Is that day at Balboa, was that like for you like a turning point?
That was an awakening moment for me. And I was able to bring that identity of being an athlete back into my life. And it wasn't just that identity factor, it was also the sense of community. I was able to meet different women and men who have gone through similar situations and have similar stories that I have, where one minute they're living this way and then all of a sudden it changes. And just to have that commonality and be able to communicate that with other people, and not just like communication, but I learned so much, right? I was able to transfer into lifted trucks because of some of the people that were teaching me different things
Right.
that I thought were never going to be possible. So I learned a lot about not just the emotional and community aspect, but like the physical aspect and what you can do, even if you are living with a disability.
Right. What so I've like stumbled into this sort of theory that through these interviews really that parents are like the hidden heroes of the Paralympic movement. Um, and not to say some athletes could get there without their parents, but I think a huge percentage of them, right, had parents pushing, pulling, whatever they needed to do. You mentioned your parents' journey early on when they were, not able to even be in the same city for a couple months while they were, with you in the hospital. What do your parents say about that, right, that period from injury to maybe when you're starting to take off? Like what would you, if they were here with us, right, what would they say about that period where you were, you were really still struggling with right, your new body, your new world?
I think that they were such an encouraging group, right? And such a team in that time. And they knew that independence was possible, regardless if I was living with a disability or not. It was just having the patience for me to recognize that within myself. So they were such great motivators and support system, not just my parents, but my older siblings as well, to like kind of showcase the possibilities that were still around, and the possibility of still being an athlete, the possibility of still being a collegiate athlete, the possibility of being on a national team. All of these things were really encouraged and supported by my family. And again, I don't know where I would be without them, because I wasn't going to do the research to myself. So kudos to the family for helping me find this sport.
And it's like, it's also like not only do they do the research, but they didn't give up on you, right?
Mhm.
They kept bringing it to you and kept encouraging you, even though right, you were probably swatting
Mhm.
it away for a while there.
Yeah, when I thought I was limited, they knew that I was limitless. They knew that I was going to be okay. And, it was tough for me to hear that, but they were right.
Yeah, yeah, so cool. I mean, it shows the power that we all have, right, to be in someone else's life and just give them that confidence, right,
Right.
that they don't have themselves.
Hmm.
It's really
Yeah,
cool, really
absolutely.
cool. um what would you say to a, you know 20-year-old girl that acquires a spinal cord injury to, shorten the window, right? I call it like the dark dark period. Basically,
Yeah.
there's like this,
No.
right? There's this sort of, not all of us are depressed, but there's some element of depression in there probably for most people. But how would you, what would you tell a 20-year-old, girl, to, right, shrink that as much as possible?
I would I think the biggest thing is allowing everybody to feel what they have to feel and not be overwhelmed by your sadness, not feel like you're the only person that has ever felt this way, especially with this transition, and to get motivated to try new things, and that you are limitless, regardless of what you may think. You can do so much, and it's not going to slow you down. It's not going to stop you living with a disability. If anything, you're going to become a better person, which I can honestly say I've become such a much more patient person and more accepting person just because of this community. And
Hmm.
take the time that you need, but know that you have the support from your family and from this community, because I know a lot of people out there, not just myself, that would drop anything to help somebody recognize that.
I do feel like if every 20-year-old that acquired, right, a spinal cord injury knew who you were and knew, right, knew that this happens, it's not common, but it happens, and knew there were stories of people being an elite athlete prior to disability acquiring and then becoming an elite athlete, right, in their new life. Like, honestly, I feel like if the Paralympics were just on, primetime NBC for, thousands of hours over the Paralympic Games, that would do amazing things for that 20-year-old that finds themselves in this new world, right?
Agreed. And I would love to get to especially, 2028, it's going to be held in LA. And I would love to get to a point where people aren't just saying, and the community isn't just saying, oh, did you hear the Olympics is coming into LA? It's coming to town. No, I want to hear, oh, the Olympics and Paralympics are coming to LA. I want that same platform. I want to see the same respect and the same excitement for the Olympics and Paralympics as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. I mean, I think that's where we're headed, right? We gotta get there. 2028. We got 7 years now.
Yeah, yeah. It'll go quick.
It's going quick, man. It feels
Yeah,
like the other day we were like, oh, it's 10 years away, and
yeah,
oh shoot.
yeah.
Um, But I do think we're making some progress, right? As a community, which is nice to think about. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your sort of Team USA journey. I know we're skipping over your U of A experience, and maybe that's probably part of the arc, right? It's maybe the beginning of that journey. But you fulfilled your dreams of playing on the U.S. national team. It's just in a completely different sport that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
But like, talk to me about that journey, making the team, and what it meant to that youthful dream that you had.
I mean, it was everything that I had wanted, even as a young kid, I could see my younger self kind of cheering me on on the sideline, and being able to wear one of these is something that I just, it's hard to explain because there's so much gratitude, and
Well,
you
I
just
might
know
wear that
all the
shirt.
hard work that you put in just to get to this point.
Right. But I might wear the shirt, but I'm not actually on the team. So it's like, it's a whole nother story when you're
Yeah.
actually.
When you're actually out there, it's an incredible experience. And it's not just the opportunities that you get, but it's the connections and bonds that you create with some of the other women that are participating with you.
Right. So you made the team really coming out of college, essentially, right? After playing at U of A. Were you were you surprised that you made the 2014 team?
Yeah, I was very surprised just because I really hadn't made a name for myself. Everybody knew that I was just starting this sport. So I felt like there was a lot of eyes on me. So I was very, very nervous. And like, I remember to this day, my first tryout, we were doing this warm up and we were playing like a tag game with one other player. And I was going around one of the assistant coaches, and I ended up hitting the back of his wheelchair and he fell backwards. And I was like, oh my God, I just knocked out one of the assistant coaches. I'm cut. I ain't making this team. So I did really well throughout that tryout. And then at the end of the tryout, when they mentioned that I made the team, that was like one of the first things I brought up was like, wait, you're inviting me to this team, even though I already took out one of the coaching staff? This is fantastic. I mean, what a great start. I guess that was a way for you to remember me, huh? So I was very, very thankful for that opportunity. And, I still get a good laugh at my first experience.
I mean, what was that feeling like when they announced the team?
It's an emotional experience. Like, there's times where you don't expect to hear your name, and then all of a sudden they call it and you're just like, holy shit, I made it. Like, I've made the team and they see something in me. And that was like a huge motivating factor for me, is that I am new to this sport, surely, but I'm ready to give everything to this sport and to this team to make sure that we are successful.
Yeah. So you make the team, you guys go to Worlds that year in 2014, come in fourth, right?
Came in fourth, and I was still adjusting and dealing with a lot of emotional stuff. Still a little depressed just because of current situation and just dealing with life. And decided to kind of still focus in on my emotional stability rather than coming back in 2015. So I took some years off, and then 2018 came around and I was ready to go, feeling stronger physically and emotionally, better than ever. And I was ready to compete again at that elite level, and was able to make the team to head to Peru.
Oh, for the Pan American Games.
Yeah, where I saw Ezra competing.
How did you guys do in Peru?
We did really well. We ended up making it into the gold medal game against Canada, and unfortunately lost by 3 points. It was a tough loss. It still is, still burns a little bit, but again, it just motivates a lot of us to not want to feel that way again. And the fact that, yes, we lost, but we still are going to be participating in the Paralympics, and we're able to qualify at that point. And that was the biggest thing, Parapans, of course, you want a gold medal, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you qualify so you can compete for the big game and the big show.
I'd like to take a quick break to show you how you can get involved as a volunteer with Angel City Sports.
Are you interested in supporting Angel City Sports? We are seeking volunteers to help organize clinics and events, as well as support our athlete outreach efforts, marketing and media, and even fundraising and development. All skill sets and backgrounds are welcome in support of our mission to provide free adaptive sport opportunities for children, adults, and veterans with physical disabilities or visual impairments. For our younger volunteers, we welcome you to join the Angel City Youth Leadership Council. Middle and high school age students are eligible to join the Youth Leadership Council, where you will learn about disability education, advocacy, and philanthropy. To sign up for our volunteer newsletter and stay up to date on all upcoming opportunities, visit angelcitysports.org.
Where were you and where have you been the whole time of the pandemic, and have you been able to train and stay fit?
So I've been living in Tucson, Arizona. I last year accepted the assistant coaching position at the University of Arizona. So I'm back in my alma mater, go Wildcats. And so I've been doing a lot of training outdoors. Obviously, all of our indoor courts are still closed, and it's been really tough finding a court that actually has hoops on it. But I've been pretty lucky that there's, a couple courts here in Tucson that are available, but it's just kind of waiting to make sure that there's not like a bunch of able bodies playing right now, or that all the courts are taking. So a lot of it has just been trying to be very creative with my workouts and getting my conditioning when I can. And I'm pretty proud of the home gym setup that I've been kind of creating over the past year. So I've been able to kind of get a bunch of different equipment just for my home. So I'm able to do a lot of lifting workouts and exercises just from home to kind of, do my part during this pandemic, but still
Do
able
you
to.
have like a little section of your apartment where you've got all your gear and everything?
Yeah, so I own a house here, and I have like this little backyard. So I have dumbbells, I have yoga mats, I have a TRX thing, I have a pull-up bar, I have a dip bar, and these are all things that I've kind of just collected over the past year, whether it be, purchasing it myself, finding different grants where I can apply and, help with purchasing some of that equipment because it is not cheap. And then also my family and parents have been able to help and support me with getting like a pull-up bar and different stuff so
Wow.
I can stay in shape.
All right, you got to
Very
send us
cool.
some photos and videos of the home gym so we can add it into the show.
I got you, of course, of course.
Well, that's a blessing, right? That you've got a house, you've got some space, right, to kind of keep your. Because I think a lot of people that are stuck in apartments that don't have a gym, and now they don't have a facility or a workout, like I think there's people that in tough spots out there.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of creativity though, and I think that's like a huge lesson, just not just for our community, but as a whole, right? We've all had to be kind of creative to kind of continue either training, to continue working, to continue doing what we love, and finding just different ways to be able to do that. Recently I saw Matt Scott put a video of him doing push-ups, and then he like pushed himself up to like 2 chairs. So like everybody is just getting creative, and it's really impressive to see how we're adapting to this situation.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's kind of inspiring,
Absolutely.
to see everybody just dealing with. I keep thinking like these games, probably both on the Olympic and Paralympic side, are going to be the least fair games we've ever had, because depends a little bit on where you live, right? Either within the US or globally. And then, right, what kind of network do you have to get access to anything, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's like, so I don't know. I just feel like it's not going to be equitable. The playing field is not level this year,
Mhm.
right?
No, it is definitely hard, but it's good that, we can all kind of communicate and stay together and do some of these things virtually, like Angel City did their games virtually. You guys have done a lot of things and have had to adjust. And although we're not together being able to compete or train together, we all know that we have the same goal in mind, and it helps motivate each other to kind of stay on track.
Totally,
Mhm.
totally. All right, before we leave the national team conversation, for our next topic, um, what's your how good is our team, and what should we look for when we're watching the Tokyo Games and watching you guys compete?
We are a fairly young team. We still have some veterans obviously involved, like Natalie Schneider, Darlene Hunter, myself, Rose Hollerman. We still have a lot of incredible talent on this team. And, just look out for Team USA as a whole. Like we're ready. We're ready to take this on anywhere. Even if it's an outdoor court, we're good. We're ready.
Can you beat Canada?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And if they're watching Canada, sorry, not sorry, but we're
That's
coming
what I
for
want
you.
to hear.
We're coming for you.
That's what I want to hear. All right, so we're gonna take a little bit of a detour now, and this is the part where we start digging into your soul a little bit, if we haven't already. So I am really curious about the journey to self-acceptance. So talk to me about that for yourself. And we've kind of gone through it a little bit, but when you kind of take a really high level perspective and looking kind of down on your life and where you are today, what's that been like for you?
It's been quite the journey, and it has completely changed the path of what I thought I was going to be and where I thought I was going to be in life. Did I ever think I was going to be part of nonprofit organizations? Absolutely not. Did I ever think that I'd be traveling the world to play wheelchair basketball? Absolutely not. But I am so thankful to have these opportunities and wouldn't have changed it now for the world. And I think the fact that I'm able to say that now is huge, and part of self-acceptance is the fact that I am proud of being a disabled woman. I am proud of the accomplishments that I've made. And, there's even parts of me that are proud that I was able to kind of get myself out of that well and out of that hole in order to kind of see the potential that I can provide for not just myself, but for the community as well.
I love that. I love it. And so sports is obviously a really, really big part of your journey in getting to self-acceptance. Was there, I know it's not like a light switch. I get it. But was there a point where, was there a point where you're like, because was there a point where you sort of could sort of say what you just said, and you were cognizant that something had changed, or did it just sort of morph into who you are?
I think it was more of a morph and just an evolution. I can't say I remember just like waking up one morning and just thinking, oh, this is what that feels like. Self-acceptance. Cool. I'm good. We're ready to go. Because let's be honest, there are still days where, I do struggle, but I can bounce back much quicker than I used to before. And I think, again, that has a lot to do with just accepting the current situations and being able to move on and develop myself as a human, to kind of understand the strength that we're all capable of. And I think, again, 2020 was a huge awakening for a lot of us.
Yep.
How quickly things can change.
Yes. On a dime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are your regrets so far in life?
I think a big regret is taking time off for USA team was a big one for me. I definitely wish that I would have been able to continue playing after 2014. Being able to participate in Rio would have been incredible, but I think I had to accept that for a while, and there's a lot of regret of how I kind of treated some of my family at the onset of my disability, at the beginning of my disability, and just how much rage I had and just how much doubt I allowed myself to give. I think those are some of the big regrets that I have. But regrets are also lessons. So I try not to be so much regretful about it, rather than just recognizing, that was a lesson that I needed to go through, and it, made me a better person because of it.
I love that. I love that. I think that's a beautiful way to look at regrets. And We all have them, whether we own them or not, and whether we learn from them or not, it's a whole nother story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Very true.
I think it's part of the human experience to have regrets. What stresses you out?
What stresses me out?
Because you
Work.
are kind of a cool pickle, like I know you're kind of showy and sparky, but like you seem like you got your your proverbial shit together.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that because definitely some days I don't feel that. Um, I would say the biggest thing is just balance. I am such a gung-ho person and just want to be able to help with everything that comes my way. But sometimes I put too much on my plate, so I can't give my full heart and my full mind to certain projects. And I need to make sure to balance and being able to say no in certain situations when, I just know I don't have the time and I need to focus more on myself or my training.
I know I got to learn how to say no too. It's such a hard thing.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
Such a hard thing.
It is.
What so far in your life are you most proud of?
Um, I would say so far just my ability to recognize like how much more this sport can bring to not just to everybody. Sorry, I lost like my train of thought there. What was your question again?
What are you most proud of?
Proud of. I think just uh being part of this community and accepting, I didn't think that was going to be possible. So that's a huge thing for me is acceptance.
But what about the community is so powerful for you?
Just how close knitted we are, and just that I think I mentioned earlier that idea of commonality.
Mhm.
Right? We all have that idea of, we know what the stairs feel like. We know what, that whole, what we just know a lot of things. We have a lot of similarities, and I think that helps support us and kind of gives us a sense of humor to kind of push past those stereotypes that people think that disabled people occur and acquire and have to deal with aren't necessarily true. Independence is possible,
Yeah,
being fit is possible, and all of that. So that's something that I've kind of taken away from it.
I love that. And I also think like maybe there's a layer of it which I'm learning now and appreciating, which is the community, at least around adaptive sport, right? And I don't want to speak for broader because I really know that community fairly well, which is there's a kindness and a authenticity and just an incredible high level of empathy and care, right, for each other, that I'm not sure I understood even existed on the planet anywhere.
Mhm.
And I really believe that I am a kinder, gentler, more caring human being. Just seeing that it's possible to do with complete strangers, right? You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's a really, I don't know. When I say welcome to the community, if someone's acquires a disability, I'm not doing it like tongue in cheek because I'm really like, this is amazing community. Like,
Yep.
you just got to show up.
Mhm. Yeah, and they're like you mentioned all those things absolutely. And something that I love that Ezra does is he like will kind of put a spin on certain things and use his sense of humor to cope with some of the people what some of the able-bodied community might do. I remember him doing like a TikTok video of like, oh, this is what people do when they're staring when I walk into a grocery store, they all stop and just look, like bringing that sense of humor, like learn that like you can have a sense of humor and still be accepted. Like I just really appreciate that about the community as well as a whole.
Right. And I think that does go underappreciated because it stays in the community, but there's so much disability humor. Um,
Yeah.
and just like the amputees, the above knee guys make fun of the below knee guys because it's like a paper cut to be a below knee amputee because you got a knee because the knee is everything. You know what I mean? Like it's just so
Right.
uh
Right. No, for sure. You get that similar with spinal cord injury, like,
Right.
oh, you're a T8, I'm a T4, and you're like, oh, so yeah, I got a little bit more function than you, right? Yeah. So like you definitely are able to kind of bring a sense of humor with it. And I think that helps a lot with just accepting the current situation and being able to laugh at yourself. What a gift, right? What a gift.
Totally. All right. So we want to use more humor with the Angel City. So we're gonna be calling you to get some ideas and get you on.
I don't know. Your son is doing pretty well. Are you sure you want, like, I don't know. He might take the cake on that one. And he knows how to use that TikTok stuff.
I know. I can't understand. I can't understand Snapchat, let alone TikTok. So I'm like generations behind.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna close with a couple big questions for you. What is your purpose?
To use my voice and to show younger women their potential.
Damn. Did you have that all ready to go? That was beautiful.
Thank you. No, I didn't.
That was the best answer by far for that question. I don't ask exactly the same questions every time, but I ask similar questions. But that was really good.
Thank you.
And the one that I'm going to close with is, what has your disability taught you?
I think I touched up on this before, but patience is a huge topic that I've been able to learn, which I'm really grateful for now.
And you were not that patient in your pre-disability life.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It wasn't, that was just a weird, interesting concept for me at that point in life. So that was like a huge thing for me to learn through my disability, and just like strength and vulnerability and just strength in adapting, like the ability that the human body can do, and just like emotionally and physically, and how we can adapt to certain situations is incredibly motivating and awesome to see, not just with myself, but as a community in whole.
I love that, because I think if you can learn what you just said, which essentially, I'm just saying in a different way, it's like the confidence, right, to tackle whatever life throws at you. If you can learn that through disability, maybe you could be even more successful in your life than you would have without that, right? And that sort of proving ground, it does teach us a lot, right?
Absolutely. So grateful for the lessons. They were tough, but now I can say I'm grateful.
Yeah. And it just makes you that much better of an advocate for the community, and that much better to connect with those new athletes that are scared and don't know what to expect, that might have seen the same gym in Balboa, right, after injury, and like run out of the gym because it was intimidating and scary, right? Versus like, oh, I'm in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody has the same reaction. And it's those ones that I really worry about, right? That see us, they see it, and then they run away because they're not whatever's going on with them, right? That breaks my heart, to know someone showed up to see it and try, and then they run away.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's it. We got a lot out of you. So grateful to have you on the show. Is there anything else that is top of mind you want to say, or anything that just is coming from your heart?
Only thing I want to say is go Team USA. Let's go.
So I hope you enjoyed learning about Courtney Ryan, one of the athletes that I'm going to be watching very closely in Tokyo this summer. And check out the show notes for ways to follow her. Our next episode is Jamal Hill and his audacious dream. This show is produced by Angel City Sports. You can follow us on social